when we look at the news and everything, everybody's complaining about the horrible situation in the world, and everybody's looking for an answer to it. And we have the answer right here. The gospel of Jesus. Jesus, who said, I am the way and the truth and the life. Anyone committed to the truth hears my voice. We follow him, we do what Jesus says, and the world will be perfect. That's what he came to do for us. So all we have to do, you want to tell the world, you want to make the world perfect? Follow Jesus. It's as simple as that. Unfortunately, it's not always that easy, because there are lots of people out there claiming all sorts of different things that Jesus says and speaking in his name, all sorts of stuff that contradict each other. And sometimes honest, good people will say, well, with this one saying this and this one saying that, different denominations of Christianity, even different Catholic parishes, sometimes they'll hear priests saying things that will contradict somebody else. Well, you got to wonder right away, where is the truth? Who's telling me what is the truth about Jesus? And honest people will look through it all and try to say, let me find the one who is speaking what we hear about in the gospel with the authority of Jesus. Or as the Lord says in the first reading, talking to Moses and the prophet, somebody who was speaking with the authority I gave him, not someone speaking a word I didn't tell him to speak. And so an honest person will sift through all that and say, who has the truth? Who is the one that's truly speaking for God? Sadly, there are other people who, what happens is when they hear the truth of what Christ is teaching, they don't like it. They want the truth to be something else. And so rather than changing their hearts and deciding, okay, well then I've been believing this, but I now understand that God says that is not the truth, that is not going to lead me to holiness and union with him, I must change my mind. No, they refuse to change it. And instead they look for people who will say what they think the truth is, or what they want it to be. And they'll go all over the place finding people who will tell them whatever they want. And we probably don't have to go too far, even from here, to find Christians who will tell you anything you want to hear is true. I know by me there is a church, and now we, of course, all the main denominations of Christianity have always condemned abortion as a grave evil. And yet there's a church by us, I think it's in one of the Reformed denominations, who has the big gay flag hanging outside and a big banner that says, we support reproductive justice, which is their nice euphemism for abortion. Well, obviously, we can't both be speaking for Jesus. Either abortion is okay or it is a grave evil. It can't be right depending on what each preacher teaches it is. Somewhere there's someone teaching the truth. And many people will go to churches. Sometimes there are different Catholic parishes where either somebody will preach something different or maybe even not talk about the hot topic issues because they don't want to be reminded that what they're believing is not in line with Jesus. So they go places that will talk about what I call marshmallow theology, nice and soft and fluffy, teach them sweet things that taste good but have no nutritional value whatsoever because they're not challenging them to grow and to change in the Lord. And so sometimes people will look for that. Other times they'll even seek out denominations that teach them what they want. And I've had people over the years saying, well, that's why I left the church. I went to this one because they affirm this teaching. And yet, what they don't realize they're doing is they're giving their authority to that minister. And maybe assuming that, when I stand in judgment before Jesus, I can say, but Pastor so-and-so or that minister, whatever, told me was okay. But they forget that Jesus is going to say, but I said it was wrong. And why did you listen to that person? Did you not know what they were telling you was wrong? So, with all the different opinions out there, how do we know what is the truth? How do we know what truly comes from the lips of Jesus and is not made, by other people? Some people would say, well, just pick up your Bible and read it. But even at that, picking up the Bible and reading it, many people will read it in many different ways. How do we know? We need to look for the authority. And Jesus, as we hear in the gospel today, the people listened to him because he taught with authority, not like the scribes who even disagreed with themselves. They debated things back and forth. When Jesus spoke, they listened because they said, this is obviously somebody who knows the truth and is teaching it. And so what we need to do is find out who is truly teaching what Jesus taught. And we have to look from that and say, well, then who is the one to whom Jesus gave the authority to speak in his name? And there's only one person that we know from the lips of Jesus had the authority to speak in his name, and that is Simon Peter. when he said to him, "You are Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church. The jaws of death will not prevail against it," which, in addition to meaning it's not going to end, means I will not allow you to sustain a lie and teach anything repeatedly that is in fact false. And what you declare loose on earth shall be loose in heaven. What you hold bound on earth shall be bound in heaven. He's the only one that we know from the lips of Jesus. And then later he extends it to the apostles, the church in general. So that authority that he gave to Peter and the apostles extends now today through their successors to the Pope and bishops today. So when they speak in unison, we know they are speaking with the authority Jesus gave them. And that teaching is sometimes not always easy to do, but that's when humility comes in. When we have to say, well, I'm not here to teach God how to be God. Rather, God is here to teach me how to follow him, to know the truth that will set us free. And so it's not always easy to do that. And sometimes people want things differently. I remember many years ago, I was doing a wedding. And I was at the reception sitting with different people at the table. Some of them were the family I knew from the parish. And then there were other relatives there. And this one guy says to me, he goes, why do you think you have to parrot everything the Pope says? You have a mind of your own. Think it out for yourself. And I said to him, well, thank you very much for the compliment. You think I'm infallible? And he says, what? I said, you think because I think it in my mind, it must be true? I said, you know what? I've been wrong before. And I'll probably be wrong in the future. I was like, and if I love the people that I serve, I will not get up and teach with conviction and tell them, you must follow what I believe. Because then what happens if down the line I realize, I was wrong? Do I have to go back and tell them, you know what I told you? Well, that was wrong, so now I'm going to teach you this. And if that happens, I've just lost my authority. Because people will say, well, you were wrong before. How do we know you're not wrong about this? So I'm not going to teach them my opinion. But when I teach the clear and consistent teaching of the church, now I can teach it with authority and with conviction because I know this is not my opinion. This is the truth of the church. This is what Christ has revealed to us. And sometimes in my own heart, I've had to change my mind on things when I realized what I was believing or thinking was not in line with what the church has said. And I've had to humbly say, all right, I changed my mind on that. That's what we need to do. Unfortunately, too many people go out looking for the person or the minister or the church that's going to teach them what they want to hear. And they feel very good about it. Maybe it assuages their guilt that they don't have to feel that they're not following the Lord. But when they stand in judgment before the Lord, he's going to say, but you followed somebody I didn't send to speak in my name. Why did you listen to that person? And we know what the Lord said in the first reading about any prophet who dares to preach something that he did not send them to do or to take authority on themselves that he did not give them, that person will die. And so the hardest thing for so many people is to be humble enough to listen to God and follow and say, Lord, not my will, but yours be done. When we do otherwise, basically what we've done is we've decided we've made ourselves God. My mind is the truth. I have decided what's right and wrong, and God should teach this, and this. And if my church doesn't teach that, I'm going to find one that does. And when we do that, ultimately, what have we made the ultimate source of truth? Our mind. What I think, what I feel is automatically truth. So if I think it must be right. If I feel it, it must be right. I'm following my own mind, my own heart, and not God. And what is that? Original sin. That's exactly what God told Adam and Eve not to do. Don't eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. In other words, don't just try to decide for yourself what is right and what is wrong. I am God and you are not. I can't be wrong. You can. I cannot be deceived. You can. And they found out very quickly how easily they could be deceived by Satan. And so the source of truth is not our mind, but the mind of God. And our job as a people, if we want to make the world perfect, if we want to follow the Lord into his kingdom, then we have to be humble enough to say, Lord, you are the source of truth. I am not. And help me not to go shopping around for parish to parish or denomination to denomination or religion for religion to find what I think is nice, what I think is easy, what I think is comfortable, but rather what I believe is to be true because you have revealed it. Lord, show me your truth and give me the ability to follow the authority that you have taught. And how do we know your truth? Through the truth you gave us through your holy church and those who stay in union with the Pope and bishops. Lord, help me to be united with you and faithful only to you and to your truth, because your truth that you teach us through the authority of the church that you have given us is the truth that indeed will set us free. May Jesus Christ be praised, now and forever.